Writer H. L. Mencken once wrote that temptation is an irresistible force at work on an unmovable body. Today, the pro-silent resolution resolved allowing deepwater offshore oil drilling is the best interest of the United States. We'll try to tip you to vote for their side for various reasons. They will hope that you are a movable body Mencken speaks of. Today, you must determine whether it is truly the best interest of the U.S. to allow for offshore oil drilling. If there is one shred of evidence that it is not in our interest, you must become immovable. For today's debate, we will be using the following definitions. Allowing. From the American Heritage Dictionary means to let happen. Deepwater oil drilling. The BBC News Service defines that as, not all offshore drilling is deep water. The news measures classifies anything beyond 500 feet as deep water. Anything beyond 5,000 feet is classified as ultra deep. Best interest. American Heritage Dictionary means to have positive benefits for oneself, in the case of the United States. Our first contention is that mean even the fear that there is an oil spill will destroy small business in the Gulf. The main reason that many have suggested that we drill for oil is that we need to improve our economy. However, just the fear is many someday be a spill will destroy small business. According to David Hammer in 2010, testimony about the economic impact of the Gulf disaster provided a stark contrast between those directly affected by offshore shutdowns and those who are seeing their shoreside businesses drying up. Sal Sinceri, or the owner of the P&J Oyster Company, described how his business and the immovable oysters have been devastated by the spill. And a completely different perspective was provided by Keith Orrington of Tampa, FLA area restored executive and chairman of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. Overton complained that the constant media coverage of the spill is having an adverse impact on Florida tourism. Even though oil has had a relatively minor lasting effect on state beaches and seafood. Small business in the heart of our economy. If we lose the small businesses in the Gulf, the effects will ripple through our economy like a rock through a pond. Soon these effects will be felt by larger businesses and companies. At a time when our economics is still healing from our last recession, we can't afford to let this happen. Our second contention is that oil drilling and the research of the ocean for oil kills off fish, according to Stuart Henderson in 2003. Ongoing population from drilling and production activities can harm fish larvae and reduce survival rates. This is especially noticeable in fish breeding areas damaged by a major oil release. Spawning herring still produce significantly fewer normal larvae in previously oil sites in Prince William Sound after the Exxon Valdez spill. 31 reduced fish stocks have already caused several severe economic hardships in our coastal communities. Opening offshore waters to oil and gas development would further stress fragile fish stocks and hasten the demise of the West Coast fishing industry. Oil drilling, even when done safely, causes minor population in the air. This kills off the sensitive fish larvae and coral reefs. This causes a loss in species as well as decline in fish. This goes back to the economics points we brought up in contention 1. Offshore oil drilling will hurt the economy.
Time. The first pro, please begin.
Rapper Lil Wayne once said that items only grow stupider. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States is addicted. We are addicted to black gold, Texas tea oil, not just any oil, foreign oil. Each year, the United States spends billions importing oil from other countries. This addiction is slowly weakening the U.S. This is why my partner and I stand for the pro side of the revolution of resolve. Allowing deepwater offshore drilling is the best interest of the United States. For today's debate, we'll be using the following definitions. Allowing from the American Heritage definition, meaning to let happen. Deepwater oil drilling, the BBC News Service defines this as not all offshore drilling is deep water. The news measures classify anything beyond 500 feet as deep water. Anything beyond 5,000 feet is classified as ultra deep. The best interest American Heritage definition dictionary means have positive benefits for oneself, in this case, the United States. Our first content is that the oil drilling will help our energy needs in the U.S. during the brutal winter. We are introduced to two new terms, polar vortex, energy shortage. Thousands of Americans found that they cannot heat their homes because of the lack of energy. Furthermore, the price has continued to rise despite our best intentions in energy efficient cars. Offshore oil drilling can and will be both of these problems, according to the Bureau of Ocean Energy in 2010. The OCS is a significant source of the oil and gas for the nation's energy supply. The approximately 43 million leased OCS acres generally accounts for about 15% of Americans' domestic natural gas production, about 27% of Americans' domestic oil production. The offshore areas of the United States are estimated to contain significant quantities of resources in the yet to be discovered fields. The Brunel estimates of the oil and gas resources as undercover fields on the OCS total 86 billion barrels of the oil and 420 trillion cubic feet of gas. The volumes represent about 60% of the oil and 40% of the natural gas resources estimated to be contained and remain undiscovered fields in the United States. This article explains that there are 86 billion barrels of oil and 420 trillion cubic feet of natural gas underneath the offshore areas of the U.S. According to the U.S. Energy Information Association, in 2013, the United States consumed a total of 6.89 billion barrels of petroleum products. The reserves were offshore could fuel the U.S. for 12 years without needing a single drop of foreign oil. Our second content is that the freeing ourselves from other oils dependency is critical to improving our national security. According to Mark Bingler in 2010, our national security is affected by oil consumption of a number of fronts. Many of countries which supply the U.S. with petroleum and politically unstable, leaving the American people particularly vulnerable to shock in an oil supply resulting from domestic or regional conflict. Second, the related is the strategic challenge represented by our dependency, our reliance on countries whose action do not best align with our interests and impeds our leverage in the international arena. And third, there are risking all oil and fractures and human.
Stop. We will have cross-examination done by the first two debaters. Begin when ready.
In your argument, you said that drilling in the sea would ruin small businesses.
Yes, that's because if there was an oil spill around the small businesses area, it would stop fishing and ruin production at that time.
How would it ruin, okay, so we're going to pay a lot of money for foreign oil when we could just pump our own oil and help out our own country instead of paying other countries for their oil because we're afraid of some small business?
Yes, but you're not doing the small businesses any good by just taking away their production.
Who says we're going to make a spill again? I mean,
The probability of making a spill is still high.
how?
25% is pretty high.
Not really. I mean,
Well,
about 100.
1 out of 4 chances of having a spill is pretty bad.
3 out of 4 chances of not having a spill. We could be even more careful than we were last time. I mean, you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, but how would you fix an oil spill that you didn't even know was going to happen?
We fixed it before, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
You said that instead of paying money for foreign countries, the trillions of dollars we pay, but what's the point of destroying small businesses here instead of in different countries?
Because trillions of dollars, or probably millions, millions. You can like pay a small business, you can like rebuild that, you can help them out. Or you can just be in debt like we are, like you can go even further in debt with trillions of dollars, paying someone else for their oil when we can make our own. That's like buying someone else's bread when we can make our own.
Well, it doesn't seem like it makes no sense
Okay, so
to buy.
pay trillions of dollars for someone else's oil, or we can just use our own oil, make our own oil, like pump our own oil.
Yeah, but if that keeps, what if we keep having oil spills and constantly having to have to constantly rebuild small
We've only-
businesses that,
How many oil spills have we had?
one,
One big one,
yes,
that you know of.
yes.
Okay, so we've had one big one, and that was a bad oil spill, but we've learned from it. Did we not?
Yes,
We've learned from it, right?
yes.
Say that.
We've learned
Okay,
from oil spill.
okay, so obviously we're doing good. So why would we still buy someone else's oil of trillions of dollars?
Because buying someone else's oil still
Trillions of
provides.
dollars or millions that we could obviously
Buying someone
help
else's
them
oil
out.
is
We can help them out.
helping
with
the
their
American
business.
population and the water,
How is it
and the
helping?
water around
How?
America.
How is it helping the population
Because
of us?
you're killing off a bunch of fish every time you
No,
have a
we're not
spill.
actually.
Time.
And
Now that we have had cross-examination between the first two debaters, the second speaker, the rebuttalist, will get up and speak. Chris Said is preparing for his rebuttal. Chris, whenever you are ready, I will end prep time. Remember, during this time, you only have 2 minutes across prep time. So as a debater, you need to spend your time prepping efficiently. Notice how Chris and Jordan are both working together. One thing that you would like to know is while you are prepping and your opponent is prepping, you can trade time. Notice how the other team is also working. One minute used. Okay. Chris will now stand and deliver the rebuttal. During the rebuttal, it is your job to both defend your case and to attack your opponents. Chris, whenever you are ready, I will begin time.
I'm ready. The opponents said that there was the small businesses. The small businesses actually provide more economic growth than a lot of the large corporations do. The oil, they said that it would supply us with 12 years worth of oil, and that frankly is not enough for the country. It wouldn't make a large enough difference to be worth harming the environment around us. If you're going to get oil, your country should benefit from it, and we would not benefit from damaging the environment around us. And if there is a political problem, then we're damaging them by having them tear their land apart finding oil. And all they're getting is money out of it while the country is going down the drain. They use Lil Wayne as a source, and I don't see how you can use someone who didn't even use good grammar as a source. It points to unintelligence. They said that when in their introduction, offshore was never used, it was never defined, and it's that way you can interpret that as saying that offshore drilling being beneficial to the United States. You could say that England could be beneficial to the United States. Nowhere in their introduction does it say that the United States would be the one doing offshore drilling. They said in their case that the United States is a majority of the United States has a problem with supplying themselves with heating, during the winter. The fact is that we have a lot of states that are tropical and have a really, really high climate. On some of their points, the fact is that, as I said before, small businesses give us more money quite often than the large corporations, and damaging those businesses would be detrimental to our economy. And as they said in their case, that it doesn't matter if those businesses were said or were destroyed, they can be rebuilt. That's not the case. Many people lost their jobs and started a miniature recession. It did not help the United States with the offshore drilling. They said that humans fix their mistakes in their cross-examination. Humans have not fixed their mistakes. We still have wars. We still have oil spills all the time. They fix the problems of the oil spills. It's ridiculous. The fact is that those oil spills have caused dead zones inside of the oceans around them and killed fish and lessened the fishing amount, the amount of fish harvested from those areas. And with that, it causes a strain on feeding our people. And when you have that and the environment is crippling and you're focused on having money, you're gonna have a problem, because money is not gonna help you when you're dying of thirst and dying of starvation. It's not gonna help you when people are rioting in the streets. It's not gonna help you when the temperatures rise to an unbearable level. Global warming is real, and oil is a very large factor into it. So their points are invalid to this topic. The threats of oil spills, going back to the small businesses, because it seems to be a large point of their case, they make them nervous, and that alone harms the businesses, because the businesses will then make decisions that are not always best in the interest of protecting themselves from the disasters that could happen. So to conclude, oil spills are a very dangerous threat to our country, and since oil spills are happening, and there is a 1/4 chance of one happening, the problem is that if one does happen, it cripples the economy, and the chances are high enough that it can happen and will happen again. There's no steps taken to fix the problems, and the problems are growing and growing and gonna become unbearably and unsolvable.
Stop. Now that we have seen the rebuttal from one team, we will see the rebuttal from the other. Notice how they are prepping. They are working together. As a reminder, both teams get 2 minutes of prep each. Not combined, each. 30 seconds of prep used. One minute used. Okay, time has stopped. 1 minute 15 seconds used. 45 seconds remaining. We will now get ready for the rebuttal. Begin when ready.
I would like to begin by saying that in your rebuttal, you stated that shoreside business will be hurt from oil spills. And I would say, first off, oil spills are already very low chance, 1 in 4, 25%. That's not a great amount of chance. 3/4, obviously, is a much larger chance. And with the amount of rate that technology gets better, we will have that chance continue to decrease. I would also like to make the statement that as with our national debt, we could increase our revenue by using our own oil and decrease the debt, or we could continue to buy oil from other countries to continue to build on that debt. I think this proves that the pros far outweigh the cons of this specific example. You said that, and also in your rebuttal, you said that offshore oil rigs had a minor effect on sea life. Whereas a study by Louisiana State University's Sea Grant College shows that 85% of Louisiana fishing trips involve fishing around these platforms. And the same study shows that there's 50 times more marine life around an oil production platform than the surrounding mud bottoms. You said that, and also I'd like to make the point that using our own oil would also decrease our own gas prices, which is part, would also help shrink the effects that we still feel from the recession a couple years ago. That's all.
Okay. We've seen both rebuttalists give their speeches. We will be going on to their cross-examination. When you are ready, please begin.
Would you like to ask the first question?
Yes, of course. With your rebuttal, you stated that the shoreside businesses would be hurt if such a oil spill would happen.
Yes.
I'd like to point out that even something as tragic as an oil spill, not offshore oil rigs, actually in the long run help them from the TV coverage alone. Would you agree?
The TV coverage alone, yes. However, with the tragedy of the oil spill and the contamination of the food there, the shops, such as restaurants, would be damaged. And the loss of the ocean where tourists love to swim is another enormous catastrophe for the shops around there. And those shops are the lifeblood of America and capitalism.
But then also these shops, even if at that current time they're in hardship, later be their business with capital. Because would you agree that that would also cause sympathy on their part, and therefore more people would want to come and help them?
No, because obviously BP didn't feel any sympathy for the people there in during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, because they didn't get very much money at all, maybe a few $1,000s per shop. That's not enough to recuperate after an oil spill. And really, the only sympathy that really would help these people are the sympathy of the oil companies, and that's obviously not coming.
I'd like to point out that I'm talking about American oil businesses. I'm not talking about BP, who is British, and obviously that would not,
However,
not necessarily directly affect them.
is it not that American citizens working on those oil platforms, and is it not an American citizen
It's not the
who
American
is,
citizen.
let me finish. Is it not an American citizen who is the director of BP in America?
Okay, it would still not be that person who would have the choice, or the say so, in giving economic help to these businesses. It would be the high up the board of BP, which is obviously in Britain, where it's
But
based.
couldn't the American citizen perhaps, I don't know, influence this? Considering
Probably
it's
not.
in America? But besides that, you've never mentioned anything about environmental disasters and how that could affect our planet. Why is that?
I think that the chances for that are small, continuing to decrease.
You said,
And if it did, and even with that small chance, while the oil rigs are there, it's doing nothing but increasing sea life.
but you said that there's a 3/4 chance it won't happen. What about the 1/4 chance it will happen? 25% is a margin that is large enough to have at least a major oil spill every 5 to 10 years, and that has been a trend since we started using oil, and it's caused disasters.
I'd like to point out
And you lose money every time there's an oil spill.
from these tragedies, we learn and our technology continues.
But we haven't learned. Why is it that we're still having oil spills if we've learned so much?
When was the last time
Answer
we've had
this.
an oil spill on American shores since then?
That was about 4 years ago.
When was the last time we've had an American oil spill off American shores?
About 4 years ago during the
Since then.
Deepwater Horizon. 4 years. I said every 5 to 10 years. So I'm
Well,
not
you
sure.
said that we're
Stop.
not safe in that, how can you?
Have finished with the rebuttals. We will go into the summary speeches. I have cut out the prep time that they use. They use 30 seconds of prep time. So when you are ready, you may begin.
As I mentioned in my second contention, that the oil spills happening in America, when it happens, it kills off fish, the seafood life, and it kills off any seafood being made. So larvas and oysters and all the other seafood type things that people eat or have for pets or anything, it's also going completely away because all the all the fish's breathing apparatuses are covered by oil, and now they can't breathe, and which will cause them to die off slowly, and many of our seafood will just go to nothing. And also, in my first contention, I mentioned how the oil spills also hurt the economy by stopping all the small businesses from having what they have. If every small business stops, if small businesses are destroyed from the oil spills, this will cause more economic problems in the United States instead of just using the oil from different countries. Thank you.
Of the other summary speech, she used very little prep time, only about 10 seconds. Whenever you are ready, you may begin.
Okay, so I'd like to say first that their argument is still saying that that we might still have an oil spill if we try this again. Well, the only oil spill that they keep bringing up is the oil spill that BP had. That was a British company. We had nothing, there was some Americans on there, but that was really not our fault. We did learn from that. I mean, that was 4 years ago. Everything has grown from then, like technology, music, everything has grown. We had like touchscreen, everything. I'm pretty sure now our drills are better now. And if we're like killing animal life, why are coral reefs like growing on the drills? I mean, if we were killing it, why are they doing that? Like, isn't that just common sense? And we would be helping small businesses because small businesses probably only got like $1,000 or so because it wasn't Americans who did that, it was the British. And the British probably thought that that's what they deserved. Well, if we even do have an oil spill, which I'm pretty sure we won't because I'm pretty sure the chances went down, I'm pretty sure we'll pay them more. I bet that we'll pay them more because that is their companies or whatever, and their companies might suffer, but what are they really suffering? I mean, if we don't have another oil spill. That's just their dumb mistake for saying that we will have an oil spill, for them thinking that we're going to have an oil spill when we might not. I mean, they're basically just, what's the word? Like saying that we are, so you might actually, because they said that, but who knows, we might not. They're jinxing us, yes, that's the word, jinxing. They might jinx us and say that we might have an oil spill, which I'm pretty sure we might not. Who knows? I mean, our technology has grown, so I'm pretty sure you won't. The chances have went down from 25%, I'm pretty sure they should have, or else they're just being stupid too. None.
Now that we have finished with the summary speeches, we will move on to the grand crossfire. All 4 debaters may be involved in this, and they must remain seated. This is different from the normal cross-examinations. So, when you are ready, you may begin.
I'd like to ask the first question, or at least make a statement. Coral is made of bones, the dead remains of fish, and also.
Do you fish not go to coral though? Do they like not?
Yeah, but the thing is, the coral
But they
is
still
dead
go to
thing.
coral, do they not?
Yes, they
And
do.
you guys are saying that how something will suffer because they suffocate. I don't know which animal you said,
A fish.
but a fish will suffocate. On what?
Because they have gills, and when oil is on your gills, it's kind of hard to breathe.
You speak your
Who
experience.
knows?
Yes.
Who knows? Okay, so we're gonna have snow. Are you jinxing us?
No, jinx
You're
is not
jinxing us?
scientific
Are you
evidence.
jinxing us?
A
Knock on wood.
jinx.
Knock on wood. Knock on something.
You are
Right now,
using-
knock on something.
What is your
You are
subject?
using
Knock on
a
something.
myth. You are using something that has absolutely no scientific grounds.
How?
Jinxes are not real, and neither is knocking on wood. That is simply an expression, and it has no scientific basis.
Okay, so you're gonna say that fish are gonna suffocate because you think we're gonna have a spill, when we're really not, because technology has grown.
Technology is
Technology
not
was still
grown. We
pretty
had
high.
It has
iPods. We had
grown.
touch
4 years
screens.
ago,
10 years
people
ago.
were having Blackberries thinking they were cool, and now we have like
We
iPhone
also had the
5C and
first
it's
black
100.
president 4 years
What?
ago. We are improving, yes, but we
We
still
are
have a long
improving,
ways to
right?
go.
We are improving. You just said that we are improving.
Yeah, but how
Okay,
about
so
we have
we're
a woman
improving
president?
technology.
How about we have a gay president?
What does
we have.
presidents have to do with technology? They're
I'm
not
saying
making
that,
that.
yeah, we've had improvements as a species, but we still haven't had an improvement as in certain
Technology.
fields. Technology has not improved
yes,
that
it
much.
has. Yes, it has.
The problem,
It has
no, it
improved.
does not.
It improves daily. You're on
How is
BlackBerry
this
for
any
years.
different from a BlackBerry? How is this any
It's
different?
touchscreen. It does not have buttons. You can
Blackberries
do
were
way
black.
more. You can FaceTime. Are you stupid?
I'm not
What?
stupid. I believe there's Skype, and that was around 4 years ago.
Do people still use Skype?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, many
Yes,
people
they
actually.
do.
Many
Many
people. Is that
thousands.
the main? Is that the
All-
main thing?
Yeah, all the business
So
people that use
Skype. So
Skype.
is Skype gonna like ruin oil drilling?
No, but the fact is that
So-
we're still using a lot of technologies that
How do
we
you
used
figure
4 years ago.
increase our oil production? How do you know
Exactly.
we even increase the machines that?
Why
Perhaps-
would you rather pay trillions of dollars for
Because
someone
it's-
else, some foreign country?
because our
when we
environment
can,
benefits from
we
it.
can drill our own oil and then we can buy off our debt for giving them our oil.
But that's not enough money
How?
to be able to make a large impact on the economy.
It might make some.
It may make
Well,
some,
what
but
if
the
we
fact
do-
is
Some
that,
is enough
you
for
wanna
some
know what
people.
my opinion
Some
on the
is enough
subject
for
is?
some
My
people.
opinion is that if you wanna get a better economy, then stop funding the stinking military and start
What's wrong with
funding
the
your.
military? So you wanna die? What?
No, we're gonna die quickly, we're gonna die more quickly if we don't protect the environment. That is an insult and should not have any place in this debate. I am, again, I hope you realize that
I
what you're
think
saying
that
is
you
not
just
factual.
don't like America and you just don't
I love
want us to-
America, and that's
Okay,
why
so
your
what's
argument
wrong
is
with
that
us making our own
invalid.
money? What's
Because
wrong with
the
us
fact
getting
is
our
that
own
we're
money
gonna
instead of
destroy our
buying
country in the
trillions?
process. We're already-
And time. Now that we have had Grand Crossfire, both teams have taken prep and are ready for their final focus. In the final focus, it is the debaters' jobs to tell you why they win. So, Chris, please begin when ready.
Alright, so the points I'm gonna make is this. Their argument is invalid because they never defeated one of our points that we've made. However, we've successfully defeated several of their points. They focus on one main thing the entire time, and that is that there is no oil spills. However, they haven't given any evidence to back this up. If they had given evidence, they could have won this debate, but they have not given the evidence, therefore they are invalid. If they do not give any evidence in their final focus that proves that our case is not factual, then they should automatically lose this debate. However, the fact is that what they're saying has not been proven with scientific evidence, and also the evidence that they have given is not widely known, nor is it reputable. However, what we have used is something that is very well known and also covers a wide variety of things. Therefore, by the rules of debate itself, we should win this argument, and also by the logic. We have used logic in our debate, and we have used factual evidence. Jinxes are not factual evidence. And the fact is that the environment suffers more than the economy if we don't do this. And with the environment suffering, therefore we will start to die off as a species and money no longer matters.
We will now hear the final focus. Begin.
I would like to begin by saying that we have proved multiple points, and that how do you have factual evidence if you try to make the point that these oil spills, like technology hasn't improved, if we have not had an instance like this since then? What is the substance of your argument if you can't back it up with an actual event? And then also I'd like to say that I think we win because ours proves that it is better for our economy and for our government, our country as a whole, by decreasing our debt and cost of living in America. But then also that the oil rigs being here will also cause sea life to increase around those oil rigs. And even if we do have an oil spill, there are certain species that tend to thrive in that type of conditions. That is all.